Welcome back, everybody. This is the last ramble through Gardens of the Moon and the knitting and everything. I'll continue knitting because it's not done. And if you look at it, at the moment, it didn't grow much since yesterday. It was very slow. And since I'm apparently too slow at knitting, our sergeant Iskar Jarek thought I needed a new uniform. So he sent the Trigal Trade Guild and sent me this amazing new shirt, which I picked up today. And yeah, go to his shop and get one of those if you want. And no, I'm not paid to do this. I just love the shirt. And yeah, so that's about the knitting today because I didn't get much knitting done. And we'll see how that continues when I'm getting into Deadhouse Gates. I've actually started the prologue already, but that's all of it so far. I guess you'll hear more about that tomorrow then. Until then, last book, The Fate, and we'll see how that turns out and how much I have to say about it. I actually found at the last end of my fridge, I found another or a final one of those boar beers, and I'm gonna do that now. So, cheers to that. Ooh, that was good. Oh yeah, and Olivia has asked about something, and yes, it's a moose that's hanging from my bed. It's a marionette moose. It's also a war veteran because it has lost one of its antlers, which lies somewhere in this post-apocalyptic hellscape that is both my living room, my bedroom, and the offices and headquarters of my record label. So yeah, and since I'm even worse at working with marionettes than Quick Ben, I decided to just hang it up there and see, and that's it. It was a birthday present, I think, from my sister like ages ago. So yeah, now that that's out of the way, um, let's get into the actual meat of things. The final book of Gardens of the Moon. And first of all, I guess I want to say that for the opening book of a 10-book series, Gardens of the Moon in the end actually manages to wrap up most important things. You can basically stop reading here if you feel like it. Obviously, that's wrong. You don't do that. You continue because you want to know what happens in that world. You want to find out all the juicy, juicy things that have been hinted at in Gardens of the Moon. I know that, but if for whatever reason you cannot continue, I don't know, it has been forbidden by law to continue with the next book or whatever, it's actually pretty well wrapped up, and I'm kind of happy about that because not that many like fantasy series manage that. Um, like I don't know, like the one that everyone seems to like and I I don't like so far, The Wheel of Time. Yeah, The Wheel of Time doesn't like I don't know. I've only read the first one and it doesn't wrap up anything at the end. I just didn't feel like continuing because I didn't like it. I'll probably do that in the not so far future. Maybe I'll change my mind, or maybe I'll just rant about it a lot and how terrible it is. We'll see how that works. Anyway, so yeah, bonus points for actually managing to write an opening book that's also almost completely self-contained, except for the actual epilogue. But that, yeah, that's just basically a small tide over to what will happen in the future. Anyway, so what else was there to talk about? We suddenly get to see a lot more of the high-powered stuff. The big world events suddenly intrude into these, like the happenings at Darujhistan. We get a shit ton of high powered magic. Like, holy shit, the fireworks in this are big. We get demons, we get, Yeah, we get demons, we get dragons, we get more dragons, we get the Jackhat Tyrant, we get fireworks everywhere. Also, we see a lot more soul shifting, possession stuff going on at the fate when the Jackhat Tyrant is first drawn into Kruppa's dream, and then he's he actually leaves and takes over Mammoth. Now it's interesting to speculate for me whether that is because Mammoth actually wears the Jackhat mask already, or if it is because he was trapped in the barrow when he was investigating for Baruch. Well, who knows? This is one of the things that I don't think gets explained anywhere. Maybe he was just unlucky. What else? We get to see for the first time other important players of the Darujhistan power games. We see more mages, at least one more mage of that cabal, which is the witch, which is cool because she's smoking a water pipe all the time, which is kind of funny. I don't know. So yeah, we get to see that, and then like the whole way this the whole subplot around Col, Marilio, and Ralik Nom is resolved is really cool. The set piece in there is, I like the way it's set up with the duel and everything. Like everyone has a role to play in there. In that plot, Marilio does something vital to the plot. Ralik does something vital to the plot. Obviously, Cole doesn't do anything, but that's sort of the point of the whole thing. Krappa's there in the back, watching the whole thing. It kind of works out in a really interesting way. It still actually feels a bit like a pen and paper role playing campaign, but one done extremely well, because trust me, I've played and game mastered enough in my time to know that actually managing the conclusion of a plot line that actually works that well, that takes a lot of really good players and people who have both a feeling for how drama actually works and to stay in character at the same time. So that, if that was actually played out, whoa, that must have been one hell of a game. Otherwise, it's still, it's really well done. I like that about it. Obviously, we don't get too many of those, how can I say this? We don't get too many like deep philosophical things in here because it's a lot of power games, a lot of fireworks, a lot of that kind of stuff, a lot of action, which doesn't lend itself too much to this kind of discussion. What I really liked was the way the adjunct and Captain Genoa's plotline works out in the end. How he actually then, in the end, when she dies, takes her home, or like takes her to the Phoenix Inn. Apparently he manages to forgive her and understand that she's basically just a tool for the Empress. He switches his hatred or like thirst for vengeance towards that thing, the same as with like Teshran, and that that he's able to feel something for the adjunct after all the things he's blamed her for and everything. That's one of those emotional things I like so much about the Malazan books, that works out so well. And I think that was well done, even though she, does all the stupid shit right up to the end until she's dying. And then the fact that she's killed by two people she basically doesn't know at all, and which are the people from the Phoenix Inn, and from her vantage point of from her viewpoint, it's a complete random thing, and those are like lowly thugs that kill her, who was the adjunct to the Empress and everything. That irony, and that she's able to appreciate that irony in her dying moments, that that actually manages to give the character a lot more depth and shows the fact that her the suppressed woman that Lawn that she suppressed in order to become the adjunct, that she's actually breaking free at the end, which I feel is a good thing because, yeah, the suppression of humanity is never a good thing. And if it, even if it's unfortunately only in the last moments, that that coming through is something I really appreciate and really like. It obviously feeds in that main theme of um, the whole humanity, compassion, empathy kind of thing that we're going to talk about every single fucking video from now on, I guess. Anyway, so that's an interesting thing I enjoyed a lot. Another thing, like small pieces, I feel there's going to be like a lot of small pieces in this one, Ramble, is when Dujak talks about the whole renegade thing and says that they want to go and meet up, link up, or not link up, but at least turn around and fight the Panion Seer. See, when I told you in book two, I think already, it was already in book two when I told you that there's all this like cool world building going on, and there's the scene where Crocus wanders across the market and sees those cloths. It was either Crocus or Circle Breaker. Anyway, I keep forgetting. My mind is very much a sieve these days. Anyway, so when he sees those cloths, and in that case, it already like mentions that the Panion Seer is conquering more cities. See, that's the kind of world building and seeding of further like plot developments that is so rewarding in the Malazan Book of the Fallen. It's even more rewarding which makes rereads so rewarding, because if you read that for the first time, you probably just like, oh, it's just another city and there's something going on. Then suddenly, like 2, 3, 4 books later, it shows up again, and next time around you read it, you're just like, oh, he already planted that seed so early. That's cool. And there's a lot of that, a lot more of that going on in the whole books in the series, obviously. And I try to sometimes, mention that when I say, like, I don't know, stick a note in there. This could become more interesting in the future, because I don't want to spoil anything. I just feel that's not an actual spoiler. So yeah, that part is interesting. So he's going to, you feel like that one of those developing or possible plot lines for the future will be the war against the Panion Seer. The other thing seems to be Fiddler and Crocus and Uppsala and Kalam going off on their own. So we're at that crossroad. We need to figure out what happens there. Who goes to Mordor? Who goes to Minas Tirith? That kind of thing. How will Erickson handle that? Spoiler, I obviously know, but I don't want to, spoil anything here. And yeah. What else was interesting? I feel we need to talk about Rake a bit more. Obviously, we have Rake going to the party and basically no one recognizing him from the politician side, while the mage is all like, holy shit. Well, they've already been told that they're in an alliance with him, but still that weird thing that there's this flying mountain hovering above the city, or even before that, above the city of Pale. And there is apparently this amazing long epic poem called Anna Mandaris about Anamander Rake, written by Fisher Keltath. Make sure to remember that name. It might come up later again. Like, anyway, all of those the authors from those prologue, like those like opening captions things, will show up later again, which is cool. Or are an active part of the world. So notice who is writing what. Did you remember that someone named Felicin, or Felicin, or however you want to pronounce that, is apparently also writing history? Did you make the connection to the young sister of Ganoas Paran in that scene at the beginning where he visits his home for a moment and confronts his other sister, Tavora? Yeah, that's the same person, right? So see, there's all these connections in there that are really cool. just saying. So that kind of thing in there. Rake this time round, when he's at the party and no one recognizes him, and he's basically fucking with everybody there, and like, yeah, I'm just the Lord Adamander Rake, and then everyone, oh Lord. Anyway, what I was trying to say is, I find it very interesting that in a world where a flying mountain is flying around the countryside, and there's an epic poem where all this stuff is in by apparently a world famous, as much as you can say world famous, poet, but no one except, like, no one makes that connection is something I found somewhat unbelievable, because I don't want to be a super pessimistic person when it comes to culture, because basically what you can read that as is like, no one cares about the fine arts, see how much I can smuggle in there, and and people won't notice because they're not well educated, that kind of thing. Even like with the situation where the councilman Turban Orr, who obviously is supposed to be an arrogant, power-hungry dickhead in a way, where he doesn't realize that that's the person he wanted to talk to all the time, makes me wonder how much research that the guy did. And as I said, basically the fact that scholars everywhere know who the guy is who runs that flying mountain and know about Anamander Rake, while at the same time, and even they are sometimes slow to realize it, like when you look at the beginning when Tattersail and like Hairlock has figured it out and the others are like still trying to figure it out, and I'm like, that's just kind of weird. But as I said, like, the comment is more like that it's important to read literature, to read and be educated, because it might actually show up in real life politics, and then not knowing who people are might, or not knowing about things, might bite you in the ass, and that's obviously not something you want. Well, another thing, Whiskey Jack gets completely randomly wounded by a falling pillar. Keep that in mind. It comes up later again when he's sitting at the beach and has like still problems with his leg, and Mallet says he needs to work on it, and yeah, obviously Whiskey Jack is like, yeah, when we have time, and Mallet says, yeah, when we have time, and you know how much time Whiskey Jack has for anything. So keep that, just, put a pin in there. It might be an interesting fact, or just a running gag. We'll see. Well, not a running gag because broken knee. Also, as someone who has done the same, like actually really badly twisted my knee, I can just tell you, yes, it really, really, really hurts, and it keeps on hurting for a long time. Yeah, just saying. Side note: don't try to fall on train tracks or run around on very bumpy fields in the middle of the night while inebriated. It's not healthy. Just saying. Anyway, back to what I also wanted to go get to, and that is demons. We have now seen demons several times, and I feel that at some point we need to have a discussion on the idea of slavery and the idea of demon conjuring and, well, forcing them to do stuff. And the way how that works, like you do it with demons, you summon a demon and then you just force them to do stuff because you're a high-powered mage. Well, it is basically slavery. While we oftentimes don't think about it too much, is like, yeah, they're demon, they're not like us. Now, when you look at how slavery for a long time worked, and I'm not just using like the slavery that a lot of people think about when you say slavery today, which is obviously mostly the enslavement of mostly African and other people in the Americas and other countries up until the 19th century. I'm also talking about the slavery in antiquity and how it was justified in those times and nowadays, not nowadays, but like, the 19th, 18th, 19th century. And it always works by dehumanizing. It always worked by dehumanizing the people that were enslaved. I think it's in Aristotle. Yeah, it's in Aristotle. Aristotle like actually explains why you're doing the enslaved the barbarian a favor by enslaving him, because it's in he can only reach his full potential, which is to be a slave when you enslave him. There's this kind of thing in there. It's just crazy and weird to get behind from nowadays. But the point I'm trying to make is that when we look at demon summoning and demon conjuring and forcing them to do stuff, and we look at that and we don't find it abhorrent and morally reprehensible or objectable, we are basically, in a way, falling into that trap, into the trap of seeing them as non-human. Well, now you say, yeah, well, they aren't. They're demons, right? But see, that's exactly the point that I'm trying to make, and I'm obviously not good at doing this, but what I'm trying to say is that's exactly what we as humans did for a large part of our history when we enslaved other human beings. And this brings you to us to the question, what is it actually about? What makes a person human in a way? Now, if you have read the Dune cycle, and the Dune cycle, obviously, at least the Frank Herbert stuff, we're not talking about Brian Herbert, never, ever. There is this whole Bene Gesserit thing when they go like, say you need to pass that pain test to actually be a fully human person, which is also a morally highly problematic, to say the least, and I'm trying to be kind, view of mankind in general, to declare a large part of them non-human or dehumanize them. So that's something I feel you can sort of see in there, because actually, like, Erickson is smart enough to know that kind of thing, I feel, and he even used the word enslavement when he talks about those demons. And the fact that we don't morally object to the summoning and enslavement of demons when reading it just shows us how easy it is to to ignore that kind of thing when the person it is done to is dehumanized enough. We don't realize it, and to actually be aware of that. And this will come up in the future. I'm just saying this will come up in the future. I don't want to, spoiler anything here, but trust me, there will be more demons summoned, and maybe we'll actually get a better glimpse into that where it hits even harder. I just want to point it out here because you see it, and those two demons that are summoned, which like work in different ways there, obviously, but the Demon Lord and the one before that Quickban summons, that then gets is really not happy with its role of enslavement, whereas the other one seems to be rather loyal to Teshran, the Demon Lord that gets killed by Rake in the end. I mean, both of them get killed in between. So yeah, they apparently are different types of demon. I'm not a lore person. As I said, I'm reading this for the third time now, and I'm just not a lore person. I don't care about the lore, actually. It's like, yeah, there's different types of demon. They come from demon worlds. Fine, for now. But I wanted to point out the fact that we should morally object to slavery, even if it's about demons, because what makes a person and makes a person worth, valued, is not their appearance or whatever. It's something else, and that's something, this humanity or personhood is something that will come up a lot again in the Malazan Book of the Fallen, because while people have all kinds of different cultures, and almost like in a way. Erickson already showed us that in the book already. When you look at the Moranth, which we don't even know if they're human or not. Like, everyone is asking themselves, are they human or are they a different species? We don't, but they are treated like human. They are treated like humans, even though they are super alien. And on the other hand, you have those demons, which seem to be rather humanoid. I mean, at least the demon lord he summons at the end seems to be rather humanoid. I mean, yeah, he's a soul taken so he can shift into a dragon, which is cool. He seems to be rather humanoid. He apparently wears a girdle. He can wield an axe. So, like, he has to have a basically human-shaped, monkey-shaped body that can take part in a typical armed combat with swords and axes. So, in a way, he's not exactly less, like, from his appearance, but for the size, he's not less human in appearance than a Moranth, and they're still treated in much different ways. And that kind of thing is something I just wanted to point out. Keep that in mind. The whole idea about slavery and demon summoning is something that I guess we can learn a lot about for how it's treated in other fantasy series as well. So yeah, I wanted to point that out. Also, yeah, Rake's sword, that kind of thing. He does not kill the possessed mammoth with his sword, which is a mercy, and that's pointed out. That's, I said earlier that we that we are getting closer to Rake, and Rake is becoming more human, is trying to rediscover his humanity in a way. I know he's just Andy, but as I said, like, humanity is something that is beyond body shape, is what I'm trying to say here, roughly. And he's becoming more human in a way because suddenly he actually he uses, like, mercy. When we talk about it before that, he's like, when he's talking with Baruch, he's like, I want those traitors from Pale, either you give me their heads or I'll enslave them. It's Baruch who's like, nah, I can't do that. I'll give you the heads because it's more humane to do that. And now Rake by himself actually decides to not do that to someone like Mammoth, who is possessed by the Jackhat, and he does that out of mercy to Mammoth, possibly to Baruch, definitely, or whatever, because who knows the motives of that guy. I just wanted to point out that this, like, Rake sort of reawakening or strengthening his inner humanity is an important thing that's going on there, and you can possibly see that him there sort of, in a way, embodying or personifying the thing that he's trying to do with his whole people. We talked about that in the last video when he talks with Baruch and says, our people are hollow, when I made this parallel with the Empire. Anyway, so we can see him actually managing to reawaken his humanity and becoming less, like, more involved in mortal affairs and becoming more open to human emotions and stuff like that. We can see that, and that gives us hope that his overall project might actually be possible. And on this note of hope, I'm going to finish with Gardens of the Moon. I enjoyed it the third time round. Again, I think trying to make these videos actually helped me read more attentively and get even more out of it. I'm very happy I decided to do that. I hope you kind of enjoy those videos, and I guess I'll see you very soon when we ramble through Deadhouse Gate. Until then, cheers.